Not good at this.
All right. So right now, if you're watching the recording, hey, thank you so much for watching the Antisyphon live stream recording. If you're watching live, no, you're not. There's no one here yet. That's fine. I'm going to change the light in my house to be the on-air light. I do have that. So if I hit that, it lets everyone in the house know I'm on air so that they talk slightly less than they normally do.
And the cat knows that it's now time to go to Jason.
Yeah, the cat's like,
I'm going to go lay on that man's keyboard. It sounds weird when I say it, but I hope that people understand that I'm doing personification
you're speaking
of a cat.
for the cat. Oh,
Yeah, speaking on behalf of the cat.
Okay. All right. So today we have me, Banter Crashland, Jason Blanchard here. I'm your live stream host. And then we have Serena, who is our question asker. So if you have any questions at all, Serena will stop John in the middle of whatever he's talking about to ask him whatever your question is. And then we have John, who's going to talk about stuff. John,
Things.
Talk about stuff.
So, the last time that we did this, everyone was really interested in me just doing something on cyber deception. And since we're out of good original ideas on our own, I'm literally just taking requests from the peanut gallery at this point. Sure. And the whole goal of this is to do technical things, no slides, walking through stuff that's applicable to people's jobs, and just trying to have a good time with it at all. So I'm going to share my screen. I hope you can see my screen.
Not yet, but they can now. Okay.
Okay, they can now. I also wanted to point out this is brought to you by Black Hills Information Security Operations Center, pen testing, IR work. It is also brought to you by Antisyphon Security Training. And if you're curious what Antisyphon Security Training is, it's a lot like this.
Yeah.
We roll with our Antisyphon security.
So Brian Peak says, wait, you can stop John? What kind of powers does she have?
That's what we hired her for.
Yeah.
Just to shut me down.
And then Scarlet Overlord is like, how's it going? I was like, how's it going, Scarlet Overlord? How are you? All right, good. John, show us.
There's people actually here, though?
There are.
So weird. Yeah. So weird. So I want to kind of give an overview. This is my my intro class GitHub. I have all of these different labs associated with the course. Actually, all of my Pay What You Can classes are out here. So if anybody is watching this and they're like, haha, his GitHub is exposed and I can go directly and I can get to his labs. Yeah, that's kind of the point.
Yeah, that is correct.
It is. Yeah, we're constantly giving stuff away for free because we proudly suck at capitalism. And today I'm going to do two walkthroughs. I'm going to do two separate walkthroughs. One of them is going to describe the problem statement. And then the other one is going to show you a potential solution to that you can implement in your organization right now utilizing cyber deception. And one of the main reasons why I love talking about this topic is it actually makes pen testers cry. There's probably 2-3 times a month that I have someone from a customer side or a pen tester that contacts me from Black Hills Information Security, and they say, hey, look, this environment had cyber deception enabled and made my job hard, and I got all teary-eyed because they got me. And as I like to say, collect pen tester tears, they make the best wine. So the first lab I want to show you all is this lab. It's the password spraying. Now, just to kind of give you an overview of what password spraying is and why it's important, is whenever an attacker gains access to an environment, it is literally one of the first things an attacker is going to do. They're going to enumerate all of the different users on a system or a domain with something like net user space /domain, just dump all the users. And then they're going to attempt a single password to authenticate to every single one of those users. And the reason why they do a single password is because it gets us underneath that password lockout threshold. So instead of choosing an account and trying to log in thousands of times, I'm going to choose thousands of accounts with one password. So I'm going to show you what that looks like I said, to kind of describe the problem statement. And then I'm going to show you how you can very quickly and easily detect it in your environment. And all this is coming from the labs that come from our Pay What You Can classes. And I have one starting next week. Actually, this one's from that class. It's the Intro to Security class. So the first thing I'm going to do, because this is a lab, I'm just going to make sure that my antivirus is disabled. The goal of the labs is not necessarily, here's how you bypass antivirus, even though we have classes on that. The goal is really defensive in nature, to show you what a post-exploitation attack technique
John,
And
can
these
you zoom
wonderful,
in a little
yeah, I
bit
sure
on
can.
the?
See this right here. So
Mm-hmm.
I just disabled my antivirus, and this red means it was already disabled. So we're doing good. So we're ready to go to the next step. So the first thing I want to do is generate something on my individual host that's kind of similar to what you would see in a domain, which is a lot of users. So if I go into the tools directory on my VM, and then I run this script created by Bull Bullock, Daft Hack. He does the cloud classes for us. This will generate 200 users on the individual system. Now, like I said, I don't have a full domain set up in this. This is just a demonstration of what we go through in my class. The actual mechanics are the same. You're going to have lots and lots of user accounts, and we're going to use a tool that'll automatically try to break into various user accounts on the system. So let's go ahead and go to the next step. Since we've generated these 200 users on the system, then we're going to invoke PowerShell, copy and paste. Plenty of copy and pasting going on here. Set execution policy unrestricted. This is basically reducing the security of PowerShell. It's going to allow anything to execute on the system, which is what we want to do. Set it to be unrestricted. Then we're going to load a PowerShell module. This is local password spray. This is a modification of the domain password spray script that Bo Bullock had created. And it's a tool that you can use at work. Of course, always get permission, test it out on a test environment before running in your environment. But here's the deal. This is one of those tools that we use constantly at Black Hills Information Security. Once again, the goal is it will enumerate all the users, and then it'll give you the ability to attempt to use a single password and authenticate to every single one of those users on the system. So I'm going to go ahead and import that module. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire it up. So I'm going to invoke local password spray with a password of winter 2020.
Scroll down a little bit. There, that's fine.
There we go. Winter 2020. Why season and year? The reason why we go with season and year is because that is one of the most commonly used passwords that we take advantage of when we're basically breaking into organizations. Users change their passwords a lot of times once every 90 days. So they'll change it once every 90 days, and the seasons tend to change once every 90 days. And unless you're down south, but someplace warm like Serena is. Not that I'm jealous. It's just that it snowed here last week, and maybe I am just a scooch jealous of that. But at any rate, you see the passwords in organizations follow that cycle. Where they'll say it's winter, they'll set their password to be winter 2020, 2021, 2022, and then they'll follow the seasons, right? So they'll go, like winter, spring, summer, fall, and it's easy for them to remember their password. It changes once every 90 days, and they don't have to try to remember if they've used this password or not. So we'll run this now.
John,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's almost like we pick the collections that we do for our T-shirts and stuff. We call it the Winter 2022 collection, or the
It is. It's
Summer
almost like we have
20. What about the exclamation point at the end? Does that help? No?
It does. As soon as you do that, it makes your account unhackable,
Got
completely
it.
secure.
Cool, thanks.
No. Yeah. So you'll see some things like the exclamation point. We will add that in. We also see people that try to do camel case substitutions. Well, they'll change winter to a 1, winter with an exclamation point. They'll change a T to a 7. And that's where they're trying to get around their no dictionary word restriction. So we'll try these different variations. Usually we'll do it like once, choose one password, and then we'll wait a few hours, and then we'll try it again. And that usually depends on the password lockout policy for an organization. Once again, if they're locking out once an hour, we're not going to try 3 different passwords in 15 minutes. That's just going to get us in trouble. So we'll run this low and slow. And as I said, you want to test it and get full permission before you do any of this in your own environment. But this is what the attack looks like when it works. So the first thing that it's going to do is it's going to dump all of the users. It does this through PowerShell, but it's very similar to a command net user /domain. Then, based on all of those users, it'll attempt to log in to each one of those users with that password. So you can see that Christopher's password is winter 2020, Dennis, winter 2020, Gregory, Jack, Jerry, and Michael. The reason why attackers love doing this is because many organizations will not detect this type of attack. It won't. Many times they aren't running UEBA, and if they are running UEBA, they're getting tons of quote unquote false positives that they're all worried about, and they tend to ignore these types of attacks. The other thing an attacker can do is they can run this really slowly. Like I did it, and it was a matter of just seconds. So what a really good attacker will do is maybe try one user ID password combination per minute and let it run over the space of 2-3 days. That tends to get underneath the wire of something like user entity behavioral analytics on an environment. So the problem statement is post-exploitation attackers can use password spraying to elevate privileges by taking over additional accounts. So how do we stop this? Well, one, you could just stop the attacker from getting on the system in the first place. Good luck with that, right? That is easier said than done.
Nailed
The
it.
other thing, oh, go ahead.
Just saying, nailed it. Keeping them
Yeah.
off that's the thing.
If we just didn't get hacked, we wouldn't have problems.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that you can do is UEBA, User Entity Behavioral Analytics, which, as I mentioned, requires some tuning and it tends to be expensive. We are poor here because we proudly suck at capitalism. So we want to find a way that we can detect this type of attack in an environment, and we want to do it in such a way that it doesn't cost us anything. And we can do this through the power of cyber deception. So for the cyber deception labs, the one that I want to walk through today is the Honey user account. Now, the idea of a Honey user account is to put a user in your domain, on your local host, somewhere that the attacker will interact with. Now, I'm going to explain this in more detail. The account, if you don't have to like call it an admin account or anything. In this example, I'm simply going to call the account Frank. Why Frank? Because Frank's already there, and why not? So we have already created the 200 users on this particular computer system. So what we want to do now is we want to create a situation where I can create a rule in my event logging service on my local system that will allow me to detect if somebody's doing a password spray on my system. Now, to be completely honest with you, if you're going to do this in your environment, you're probably going to end up running this in your SIM. You're not going to be running this on the local event viewer. You're going to go to ArcSight, you're going to go to Perch, you're going to go to Splunk, you're going to go to Elk, and you're going to create a rule that if anybody tries to log in to the Frank account, successful or failed authentications, it's going to generate an alert because no one should ever be interacting with the Frank account. Now, people will ask, how will the attacker find the Frank account? That's a great question. The attackers don't care. You see, what's actually going on under the hood with an attack like this is the attacker will run something like net user, and it'll dump every single user off of that system. And then they'll feed that into their script. So they're being completely indiscriminate. They're trying to hit every single user account with the password of winter 2020 or spring 2022, as it is the time of this particular video that we're running. So you don't have to worry about trying to set the bait so the attacker hits it. Trust me, the attacker is going to hit it regardless because they do this in an automated fashion. So let's go ahead and let's talk about how we can create that trap for the attacker. So the way that we're going to do this, as I said, is this is going to be built into just Event Viewer, just as a proof of concept. And I like doing it this way because seriously, if I can do this in a matter of I'm hoping under 20 minutes, running a little bit behind, in under 20 minutes in a video using the built-in Windows Event Viewer on a Windows 10 system, y'all should be able to do that in your really super expensive SIM that you're doing all of your event logging to. So let's go through the steps. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a custom rule inside of security, right? So we're going to create a custom view, right? I'm going to select that. Let me zoom in on it because there's lots of logs that are generated, right? Tons of logs. And it's really difficult to identify what is legit and what is actually an attack. And the beauty of using cyber deception is you've set up something that has almost like no false positives. Seriously, if anyone tries to log into the system with the Frank account, it's time to freak out. So we want to create this little rule. Now, in order to create a custom rule, I'm going to choose XML. I'm going to edit the query manually. It's going to say, hey, you sure you want to do that? I'm going to click yes, just because I do want to do that. I lost everything there. Yes, I do want to do that. And then I have this XML. Now, in the lab, I have the modified XML that we can use instead right down here. And it's really, really basic. Let me load it in, and then I'll zoom in and show it to you. So basically what it's saying is we're setting up a query. We're setting up the query path is the security event logs. And it's saying anytime the name or the target username is Frank, it's going to match and it's going to show us all the rules that match somebody logging in or attempting to log in to the Frank account. Once again, your specific syntax that you would use for your individual SIM will be different. If you're running ArcSight, if you're running Elk, it's going to be different, but you're going to set up a rule, preferably one that's critical for your account. Now, the Frank account I know is created because my script, created that Frank account for me. It is in there. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to call it Frank, like that. Now I have my custom view set up. Now it's automatically going to run the custom view, and you can see the previous event logs for me creating the Frank account. You can see it was created right down here. So the account was created, and then the account was enabled right here. And then it says it was changed because it's adding a password to the Frank account. And then attempt was made to reset the account's password. And then finally, you can see me trying to log in. This is where I ran the script. It tried to authenticate to the Frank account, and then it said it failed to log in. So if I was to rerun my script, right, if I'm to rerun this again, what you'll see, going to go through and enumerate all the user accounts. Then it's going to attempt to log in to those user accounts. It's going to rerun everything. There we go. Now, if you notice, let me zoom in here. None of these accounts are Frank. Christopher wasn't Frank. Dennis, Gregory, Jack, Jerry, Michael. None of those are Frank's account. Remember, it doesn't matter if they log in successfully or not. It just means that someone tried to authenticate as Frank, and then my rules will fire. So over here, you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 events. As soon as I reran that script, if I refresh, you see that we have another failed login attempt that just popped up. Actually, we have 2. Somebody tried to authenticate with explicit credentials, and then you can see that there was a failed login attempt. So as I said, this is just built for the purposes of demonstration and how quick and easy you can create a Honey user account in your local system, or if you want, you can also set it up in your domain. Now, you're going to want to log in as Frank. You're going to want to make sure that Frank has a password, and you don't want Frank to be disabled. You can give Frank a nice long password because it ultimately does not matter at all if the attacker successfully logs in to the Frank account or not. The only thing that matters is that they attempted to authenticate as Frank, and then we've got them. So the whole idea is creating these little Honey accounts. Now, this catches an attacker attempting to do lateral movement via password spraying. You can do the same thing with service accounts. Another technique that most attackers like to use is Kerberoasting. So create an account that's Kerberoastable with a ridiculously long password, and then set up a rule that if anyone ever tries to authenticate or query any information about that query account, get notified immediately. And this is kind of a poor person's UEBA, right? We're trying to detect the actual techniques that an attacker likes to use post-exploitation in an environment. You're setting up these tripwires. The other thing that's beautiful about this is you don't have to worry about timing. If the attacker is attempting to really throttle back and slow down their attack methodology, you can still detect them because they're going to hit that account eventually. And this allows you to detect them. So the point is, we can put cyber deception in the appropriate places in an environment that an attacker is most likely to go. But it requires us to have a good understanding of what the attacker actually does post-exploitation. It's much like hunting. If you're hunting, you just don't go blindly walking through the woods. You want to make sure that you're following the paths that your prey is going down. Maybe set up cameras, know what time they're going to be there. Actually understanding what an attacker does, the paths the attackers tend to take the most, and then putting your deception in place properly is what you want to do. So that is just it for the walkthrough. Like I said, I wanted to get this done, and I wanted to do it in, like I said, 20 minutes, got it 1 minute under. I just wanted to open it up to questions that anyone may.
John, your audio changed a little bit when you zoomed up. Also, what I heard you say is you want us to hunt attackers, figuring out where their path is and setting up cameras?
Yeah. So once you learn where an attacker normally goes, then
Like-
you can actually put the proper traps in place for the attack.
So like to Starbucks or to the grocery store?
To the Starbucks or the grocery store. Yeah. When they're trying to elevate their privileges, like if we go back to backdoors and breaches, actually, let's do that. Let me bring up backdoors and breaches. Let me drop my virtual machine. There we go.
Play.backdoorsandbreaches.com.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Play.backdoorsandbreaches.com. I'm just going to stick with the core deck, and I'm going to share my screen again. All right, so the specific card that this applies to in backdoors and breaches is the pivot and escalate card. So this one doesn't really apply. Let's get some new cards here. Internal password spray. That's literally what we just did, right? With internal password spray. This is post-exploitation. Once an attacker gets initial access on a system, they'll do an internal password spray. And you can see cyber deception is actually a card right here for it. All right, so let me refresh. We got a whole bunch here. Got credential stuffing. Very similar than a password spray, but instead of doing just a password like winter 2022, they'll find previously compromised credentials online somewhere, and then they'll try to use those credentials. So this really kind of follows the flow of backdoors and breaches, where an attacker gets on a system, say with social engineering, then they want to elevate their privileges and move laterally in that environment. This entire section of cards is really, really, really nice to be able to be detected with cyber deception technologies. Kerberoasting, right? You can absolutely detect Kerberoasting with cyber deception as well. That's what we are doing there. All right, best game ever. No, that game is Mech Warrior, the first one, or Might and Magic 3. That's just it. All right, what other questions do we have?
So far, none. Honeypot? Question mark?
Yep,
but before that,
so I want to talk about that. When people talk about honeypots, they're a lot of times talking about Windows Server 2003 system, and an attacker can break in. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about honey technologies. So it can be user accounts, it can be files. I'm going to do another one of these sessions where I'll walk through how you can create Word documents that as soon as somebody opens that Word document, it actually generates an alert and notifies you that that Word document is stolen.
Right.
So yes, it's honey technologies. Honeypot, I would generally put in the category of something that's emulating a service or an entire operating system instead.
Before we go on, Maha Risk, thanks for following. No Nothing, thanks for following. Mike Shudo, thanks for following. And Haircut Fish. Haircut Fish is my favorite username of the day. So you don't get a prize. You just get my admiration.
That is a good one. I don't know how they came up with that or how people come up with most of them.
Yeah, Haircut Fish.
I really like haircuts and I really like fish. That's going to be my name because it speaks to me on a low level.
Serena, did you have any questions based on what you just saw? And your mic's not working.
We finally get her a mic and a computer, and the microphone doesn't work. We're horrible bosses.
No, I was just on mute.
Even better.
But no, I think that was really cool. I like that it's just like a no cost solution, and I think it's like really savvy. as far as a way of catching people signing into this dummy account. So I think that's like really interesting.
So, you talk about the no-cost solution. There are a lot of really expensive solutions out there for this, and there are people out there that would love to charge you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and all those solutions are really cool. But I'm always going through in the back of my head. I'm like, I could do that for free, some duct tape and some baling wire, but it doesn't have that cool powder blue gooey with like the lines and stuff. Lines are important. They are.
Yeah.
Like in
But
the
I think
background.
this is something that's like easily implemented for people that maybe don't have a large budget but still want to be security conscious. Like if you have a small IT budget and you're kind of a couple IT people working and you can't afford all the fancy stuff, I think this is a great option.
And it's going to catch attackers and it's going to catch pen testers. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the big thing because Serena, you're going through like shadowing and looking at our pen test reports. You're literally going to see these things like show up like in your journey here. You're going to be like, they just did this for like the 19th time and this crap still works.
Yeah.
We can do better. Had a couple of different recommendations. Wizpo said, recommend making a few generic accounts. So if someone is just poking around, yeah, do more than one, right? Do more than one. You can also do it with machine accounts as well. Haircut Fish is pointing out that he was that dude from B-Sides Charm that had the Pokemon Hawaiian shirt and a bandana.
I know exactly who you are. I mean, that's it. For now on, you have to wear that to all cons.
Every conference, it's your superhero uniform. It's better than some people like, hey, John, I was that middle-aged white dude in jeans and black T-shirt at this conference with a beard. It's like, my evil twin?
So while I was Hacking Fest, there was two people named Chris that were both bald with beards who looked very similar, and I was like, Chris, and he's like,
no, wrong person.
Okay. Anyway, so we're live streaming now, which means you can ask us questions at any time and interact with us. The goal is to get away from doing slides and slides. Like really, that's the goal, to get away from doing slides and long presentations where we just talk to you, you talk to us, and we communicate back and forth, which is exciting for us.
Well, I think the big thing is like with these things, we're going to start with the tech, and then we're going to do like post-tech banter because I want to get to the technical things as quickly as possible and just kind of open it up to questions. I can't remember who was it. Oh, it was Bryson at Wild West Hacking Fest. I was talking about cyber deception, and he pointed out that I've kind of gone against like Bruce Schneier, I've gone against Jeff Moss, and also Brian Krebs on cyber deception. So there's like all of those guys have basically said at some point cyber deception doesn't provide that much value. Jeff Moss said, look, I've never heard anybody say we checked our deception technology. And Krebs said hardly anyone's using it effectively. And I just want to call out, those guys are all wrong. They're really, really, really smart, and they're kind of my heroes in some ways, but they're wrong. We're starting to see cyber deception being used all the time in our pen tests. And for me, I get like a little bit proud and I tear up a little bit every time. We had one customer that has deception implemented everywhere in their environment, and they gave me a big long tour. And I walked through and I asked some questions, and they were like, crap, that bypasses this. And they immediately started fixing it. Yeah. And that's so cool.
I think it can't be like understated how important it is to find things early, because when you detect things early and are aware, even if they're already in, so often I feel like I get the comments like, oh, if they're already past your firewall, it's too late. And I hate that so much because it's like the earlier you detect something, earlier you figure out someone's trying to maneuver within your environment, you can cut off a lot of really important access, which I have seen in an incident myself where it was detected early that somebody was inside the network, but we were able to drop the connections between like corporate and hosting, which saved the entire data center. So I think that's super important.
So I want to share my screen real quick. You talk about that detection, post-exploitation, how important it actually is. And I'm going to invoke, holy miter attack technique matrix. If you're looking at this, a whole bunch of these techniques, if you set up deception properly, you can actually detect, right? So like credential access or like lateral movement, internal spear phishing, lateral lateral tool transfer, remote service.
John,
Great-
your camera is covering all the stuff you're looking at, so you have to
let's do
scroll.
that. There we go.
There you go.
We have the ability to detect tons of these lateral movement and discovery capabilities within MITRE if we just know, once again, where to put the right deception. So we're almost always post-exploitation at BHIS. Almost always, we are going to do a password spray. We are going to attempt to do curb roasting. You could even, like, if you want to get really crafty, group policy preference files. I know that that's from 2008. Microsoft patched that, but attackers still check group policy preference files post-exploitation. That's just, it still works every once in a while, and it's like this one-shot kill, and it just gets you everything. You can create up a fake group policy preference file with a fake user and a fake crackable password and light the attacker up. Very.
It's not a live stream unless John's phone rings.
It isn't, right?
So you teach a whole class on this, and I've sat through your class, and I love the class. And whenever I tell people about the class, I always say it's it's like the Home Alone way of building out your network. It's your network; you can build it out any way you want to. And so you're going to do the class when?
So this next class, I think, is going to run. Cyber Deception is going to run next month. Next week, we're doing the Introduction to Security class, which is the second class in the cycle. First is Intro to SOC Core Skills. Then we do Intro to Security, which I did one of the labs from that section. And then the next one is Cyber Deception. And they're all pay what you can. So Jason can kick out a link for you all. But seriously, we have a lot of people that are showing up, and they're like, well, to get a good class costs $8,000 out there.
Interesting.
No, it doesn't. So White Cyberduck just asked, is there a tool for detecting responder? There is. It's called the Cred Defense Toolkit.
Cred Defense.
And I am going to share the link.
Okay.
Get it to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I am going to share my screen again. But this is the Cred Defense Toolkit. This was written by Derek Banks, Bo Bullock, Brian Furman. And it allows you to detect curb roasting attacks. It allows you to put in a password filter. And it also has the capability of detecting, not specifically a responder, but link local multicast name resolution attacks. So it is in this tool. We need to update it. It hasn't been updated for a while, but it is a tool that allows you to detect that type of attack. Oh. Any other questions, folks?
I had to plug my Mac in. Somehow it was unplugged. It's fine. Everything's fine.
The cat sneaking around.
Anytime Chonker is here. Hello, anytime Chonker. And White Cyberduck, thanks for always being here. You were there for 23 hours of the 24-hour pre-show Banter Conathon, and we appreciate that.
Which is terrifying. I think we've had some conversations. Is White Cyberduck a stalker? We're like, probably, but it's pretty cool. That's weird.
Yeah.
But no, White Cyberduck is one of our, I think he's moved up to a nerd herder, right?
Yeah, we'll definitely check on. And Brian Peak says, when's the next 24-hour? That's
Never.
Something that'll get you banned. That'll get you banned from
that'll
Twitch.
Get you kicked out.
That's
not happening.
Automatic ban.
Yeah. So
wait, is that true? You got banned from Twitch?
No. So the 24-hour pre-show Banter Conathon was one of the most exhausting things I think I've done. I like security, but I think about hour 22, I started hating computer security. And I was going on Craigslist and looking up jobs for backhoe operators. And it's like, wow, $35 an hour. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
I
got so used
to shortage. You making money trucking.
John Strand, trucker.
Got a long way to go and a short time to get there.
So I was on screen for 24 hours. I thought I lived in the screen and that I was actually not real, and that was the real Jason Blanchard.
That's all
right. So John, we're doing these live streams. You have a active defense cyber deception class coming up. Like, we're here because we want to share knowledge, and the fact that there's going to be a lot of you that watch the recording and stuff. Serena's here because she is learning everything about so that she can create content and pass it on. She's on her way to becoming a tester. So all these things, like, it will be your tears, Serena. It'll be your tears when you find all this cyber deception.
I'm training her up to be a Padawan. So like whenever I get killed, she will have the skills to avenge me. Is really what I'm hoping for at some point.
Those are big shoes to fill. Am I going to be like the Jason Bourne of cybersecurity?
If we can, that would be awesome, right?
Is there a word we have to say for her to be activated? Is that how Jason Bourne works?
I need a bat signal.
Nobody mentioned porcupine. So.
I was watching Harvey Birdman the other day, and they did the signal, and he went to where it was. Like, he went to where the signal was projected. He's like, "Where is everybody?"
Totally missed the point.
Yeah. All right. So, have we run out of things to talk about?
This is it. Like we said, we want these to be short, to the point, and tomorrow we have an extra special treat. I'm not going to be here. I'm actually going down to Dallas. I have some meetings. So I'm going to leave you all in great hands. Serena and Jason and special guest, Porcupine. All right, let's take it out. Thank you so much, everybody. Oh, crap. If you're seeing this on YouTube, don't forget to do the like and subscribe thing. I suck at that, Jason.
If anyone made it this far, they already like and subscribe us.
They probably already did at this point.
No one makes it this far in a video on all right.
Do we have an outro?
I don't think we do yet. You're a dinosaur. I'm a
dinosaur. We're all dinosaurs.
Yeah.